Welcome to Woman on Her Path. Every woman has her own unique path. But what does that mean? How does said woman know what her path is? How does she find the courage to follow her path? I am your host, Tiffany Cooper. I am a mother, energy worker, community herbalist, and bhakti yogi. By sharing my experiences and insights on my path, I hope to inspire and encourage you on yours. When we follow our path, we find the answers we need in life. Let's find answers together and create a better world for ourselves and those around us. Hello, 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 women, and anyone else who may be listening to this podcast today. I hope you've had a productive week since the last time we were together. I, for one, have had a very busy and happy time since we last spoke. Last weekend, I had the pleasure of spending time with some of my spiritual sisters and brothers at a birthday celebration for one of our gurus. It was so nice to gather with them. Some of them I haven't seen since the COVID times began. Then I attended a cacao ceremony at my daughter's home, led by one of my herbalism sisters. I love a good cacao ceremony, and I do them quite often. I once did a cacao dieta, where I did a ceremony each morning for 8 weeks. There were also dietary restrictions in place, but they were all things that I don't eat anyway, like meat or processed food and refined sugars. So it wasn't a big deal. But it was such a beautiful experience. I connected deeply with the spirit of Mama Cacao. She even gifted me a song in one of my morning ceremonies. Ceremonial cacao is special medicine. It opens the heart and helps you connect deeper with the energy of the heart. When we stay connected to that energy, we see life in a whole new light. Everything changes. In cacao ceremony, you begin to see yourself from the inside out. And in fact, I will be doing an episode of Woman on Her Path next month on ceremonial cacao with a beautiful soul who I know. But today we're talking about self-love, or more to the point, self-respect. It has become popular to talk about self-love these days. Love yourself. You know, we everywhere we go, we hear that we need to practice self-love. And though accepting ourselves and having positive feelings about ourselves is important, if we don't have self-respect, then we have no real way to express that love that we feel for ourselves. Self-respect is a sign that we not only accept and appreciate ourselves, but that we also know our self-worth and have regard for it. When we are respectful of ourselves, we take good care of the physical, mental, and emotional aspects of ourselves. Self-respect keeps us out of situations that are harmful and away from people who would take advantage of us. It keeps us disciplined rather than moving about the world in a state of uncertainty, lost and confused about who we are. Self-respect allows us to cultivate a healthy life for ourselves by ensuring that we don't waste time with things that are detrimental to our well-being. There is so much self-sabotage in our society. People are encouraged to do things that are harmful to themselves and to others. American culture is cannibalistic. Corporations control our culture through marketing products to consumers, not people or even citizens, but consumers who are expected to consume, devour in excess whatever they are marketing, regardless of whether their products are beneficial to us or not. The more we buy, the more money they make, so they push products like dealers trying to tempt us by any means necessary. There is hardly any place we can go where there is not some form of advertising, even in the virtual world. The way our economy is set up, the more corporations make, the better our economy is, without these corporations bearing any responsibility to make our lives better. Of course, it is our job as individuals to make the right decisions for ourselves. But when we are constantly bombarded with messages telling us that we need, in quotation marks, particular products to survive, in quotation marks, without being educated on how to live a healthy life, it is increasingly difficult to make the right decisions in the first place. There is a lack of morality all the way around. Hardly any limits on how far a corporation can go, and very little public discourse about what defines healthy limits, so no one is held accountable. For instance, although there isn't a single person in society whose life has not been adversely affected by some vice which has been taken to excess, like drugs, alcohol, gambling, smoking, pornography, etc., rather than publicly talk about the devastation that these problems create, we build industries around them in order for somebody to make money. Sure, there are now things like warning labels and rehabs for someone after they have already gotten themselves into a situation that will alter their lives forever. But if society spent more time and money on teaching people about basic things like self-respect, we would have a lot less problems with these things. For many people, self-love means giving oneself more of what they enjoy. However, if I enjoy, let's say, martinis, it is not beneficial to keep drinking more of them. If I do keep drinking more of them, at some point I will be drunk, which will, at the very least, lead to me getting sick, and at the most lead to me developing an alcohol use disorder. If I respect myself, I am not going to put myself at risk by regularly overindulging in something when I know it will not have a good ending. When we have self-respect, we create boundaries for ourselves that are affirmations of our lives. Self-respect protects us from disrespect from others. There will always be the errant fool who will test your limits, but for the most part, when people see that you care for your health and well-being far more than whatever they are trying to manipulate you to do, they will leave you alone. The more we respect ourselves, the more we prevent harmful things from coming into our awareness. We don't revel in negativity or spend time with people who do unhealthy things. Self-respect provides us with faith in ourselves and gives us the strength to do what's right. Rather than do something that will cause ourselves unnecessary grief, we will say no to situations that are unhealthy. Self-respect and self-esteem are intertwined with one another. Self-respect protects our self-esteem by creating a boundary around it. Our respect for ourselves stops us from having unhealthy thoughts about who we are. Self-esteem bolsters our self-respect. When we do not have self-respect, we put ourselves in positions that will get us in trouble. We make poor decisions for ourselves. We don't take care of ourselves. We are in a state of confusion because we don't know how to show up in the world. It is important that we go farther than loving ourselves. We must respect ourselves. We must understand that we have something valuable to offer the world and that we will not take abuse from those who want to cause us harm. We must know our worth and use it to create. Woman, do you know your self-worth? A major reason for me starting this podcast was to remind women of their worth and support them in their journey toward claiming it. Over the years in my energy work practice, I have connected with so many women who subconsciously believe the messages society tells us about who a woman is supposed to be. Due to that sad misfortune, they try to live up to the absurd standards that are put upon us. When they think they are failing at living up to those standards, then they feel unworthy. Unworthy of joy, unworthy of love, unworthy of the chance to thrive, unworthy of respect. Let's just take a moment to talk about the standards that society projects onto women. For example, the way a woman looks. Beauty standards. The standards of beauty make such a strong impression on women that we are willing to go through irreversible major surgery to try to achieve it. Okay, maybe you're not willing to go that far. But are you willing to inject substances into your skin or lips to achieve it? At the very least, women are willing to slather chemical-laden cosmetics onto the sensitive and absorbent skin of their faces, which sends these chemicals straight to the bloodstream. For the most part, the cosmetics industry is unregulated, so no one is making sure that cosmetics are safe before being put onto store shelves. We know that most cosmetics contain ingredients that are toxic. Many are endocrine disruptors and even carcinogens. Products that women put on their bodies contain things like asbestos and formaldehyde, even lead, and thousands of other toxic chemicals. The things I just mentioned that women do for the sake of beauty are expensive. So not only are women willing to put themselves through so much, They actually pay for it. They spend an inordinate amount of money to put themselves through all of this. I remember when I lived in Southern California, and I would see so many older women who had plastic surgery on their faces when they were a bit younger. But as they aged, their skin naturally started to sag because that's what skin does. And their faces ended up looking disfigured. Not to mention that the skin on their hands and arms was clearly not in the same condition as their faces. It just all ended up in a mess. What option did they have then? To go back for more surgery? That just is not right. Today, I look at female celebrities and it makes me sad. Some of them are barely recognizable from who they were in their youth. Some look so unnatural that it's difficult to even look at their faces. If only they would have allowed themselves to age gracefully. They could be such beautiful role models for all women. Sadly, though, they have succumbed to pressures of a bullshit industry. Of course, the industry they work in is brutally competitive and unfair to women, but they should be working to change the industry rather than changing themselves. So what if we decide that we are not going to be clowns in the circus of society and instead do what's healthy for ourselves? Will we be judged? Hell yeah, we'll be judged. We are judged for everything we do, whether it's what society wants us to do or not. But wouldn't you rather be judged for respecting yourself instead of giving into the unnatural expectations of a sick society? Women, you set the standard of beauty for yourselves. Don't allow every man and his brother to do it for you. And please, if you're going to wear cosmetics, please, please, please use organic cosmetics, or at least check the ingredients of what you are putting on your skin. I have taught classes on this before, and you can check ingredients by visiting the Canadian website called Skin Deep. And I will put a link to that website in the show notes. Do you realize that things like perfumes and fragrances are like Coca-Cola and are under proprietary or trade secrets? We don't fully know what the ingredients are. What we do know is that people commonly have reactions to whatever is in them. But anyway, getting back to self-worth. If we truly understood our self-worth, we would not be focused on trying to change our looks. Self-worth comes from our inside and radiates to the outside. Have you ever seen a woman who was not classically beautiful but made a tremendous impact on everyone around her? How does that happen? It happens because that woman has realized the value of her unique energy inside of her. That is much more potent than her looks that will not last forever. She knows her self-worth, and it gives her confidence to be herself and the courage to use her innate abilities. Women like this are women of substance and not women of superficial being. Our worth is inside of us. An attractive exterior will get you some temporary things, but it won't get you true happiness. Superficiality begets superficiality. We need to recognize and use the internal gifts that we have in order to accomplish things in life. Our inner lives have the capacity to be much more satisfying than our limited outer appearance. Like the example I already gave, when we are beautiful on the inside, meaning when we have depth, character, spirituality, or intelligence, or just plain kindness and love, it automatically changes what we look like on the outside. When we show up with substance, our internal power, others see beyond the container, our external appearance. We have all seen people who are externally attractive, but internally monstrous. It's wonderful to spend time with someone who is internally appealing, but to be with someone who is internally foul is intolerable. Get in touch with your internal gifts and honor them. Know your self-worth and use it to create what you need in life. We are all so much more than the shell that we walk around in. Don't waste so much time decorating the outside while ignoring what's inside. Let's talk about plant allies. We are all so intrinsically connected to nature that if we listen closely, we will hear it speak to us. As any herbalist can tell you, when you spend time studying and bonding with plants, you begin to feel their energy. You begin to communicate with them. Often, when working with clients, the image of a plant will appear in your mind before you even know what their issues are. Sometimes you will just hear the name of a plant in your mind's ear. Plants have evolved with us. We are part of the same ecosystem. Like plants, we are part of nature. We have a reciprocal relationship with all of nature. We take care of nature, and nature will take care of us. We have the ability to establish relationships with plants. Currently, my plant family consists of gorse, lavender, rowan, and fern. I have a visceral connection with each of these plants. They have all taught me great lessons about myself and touched my being in a deep way. That's what plant allies do. Once you build a relationship with them, they show you what you need to see in life. As you study them, you see parallels to your own life and what or how you need to change. Their main concern is helping us heal, not just on the physical level, but the emotional, mental, and spiritual levels as well. All the medicine we need is out there in the plant world, just waiting to connect with us. Well, recently, I have begun a romance with a new plant ally. My new flame is Solidago, or more commonly known as Goldenrod. You have seen this plant and probably even considered it a weed. In fact, it is blooming right now. It's that time of year, so you can go out and see it on the side of the road, in fields, in almost any wild place right now. In the last 2 weeks, I have noticed it calling out to me. I was driving home the other day and I felt as though the entire drive was lined with goldenrod. It keeps popping into my mind, and when it does, it is shining brighter and brighter each time. I would describe it for you, but we are living in the age of the internet, so you can search for a photo of it. That would be much better than my description because you really have to see it for yourself. Goldenrod is indigenous to North America, and there are over 100 varieties of Solidago, and Native American peoples have used it for hundreds of years. A few genuses of Solidago are native to Europe as well. So this medicine is such a beautiful medicine. I'm really beginning to bond with it. And of course it showed up in this time of my life when I need it for my physical health. So it's really, really, that's the way that the plants work. That's how deep our connection is with them, is that they show up when we need them. So when you happen to see a plant that continually shows up, or, shows up in your front yard and you've never seen it before, or if you're a gardener, if it shows up in your garden, don't look at it as a weed. Look at it as medicine, because that's what plants are for us. And so getting back to goldenrod, I just wanted to share some of the magical qualities of this plant with you. So goldenrod, when you kind of brush up against it, it smells a bit like wild carrot. It has an earthy smell to it, but to me, there's also a sweetness in it. It's very aromatic. It's also, the flowers have been used for yellow dye. So if you're someone who likes to dye with plants, and there are many, many people. I know many women who do that. I don't do that, but I know women who do. It is a plant that is often used to make yellow dye. It's also an astringent, so it's good as a bitter astringent. It's good for your digestive system in many, many ways. Native American peoples used goldenrod for ulceration in the intestines. They also used it for vomiting. So it's used in different ways. It's good for clearing mucus in the membranes, the mucous membranes. It's also good for clearing inflammation. So again, those things are helpful when you've got digestive issues. It is also one of the really prominently used medicines for the Native American peoples when it came to the kidneys and the bladder and urinary tract. So it helped healing there. I mentioned mucous membranes, but that also works in regard to congestion in the respiratory tract as well. So colds and flus and things like that, they often used it for that. It was also used for burns and wounds, any kind of open sores. So they used it quite a bit for that as well. And some tribes even considered it as good feminine medicine, or good medicine for women. Now, as herbalists, we consider all of herbalism as feminine medicine, and allopathic medicine or Western medicine as more masculine medicine. However, with goldenrod, it was used for feminine hygiene quite a bit, and women also used it as a hair rinse. So it was quite helpful for the ladies. So those are some of the uses for goldenrod. And it's still being used today by many, many people. Oh, I just thought of one other use for it. And I just found this recently in a new book that I have that I just got a hold of. And goldenrod, dark amber goldenrod honey is wonderful for fall allergies. And again, it's that time of year. So, it's definitely something you may want to look for. If you know someone who has a field of goldenrod and they have bees, maybe you can go get some honey from them. So I just wanted to just take some time to share my excitement about getting to know this plant better. And I encourage you to get out into nature. Again, it's fall. We're at the very beginning of autumn, and it is such a beautiful time to see more change happening. Lots of things don't come into bloom until now, so you can see some things that we haven't seen over the summer. And as other things are starting to die away, they're making way. They're making room. They're making way for new life. And so how do we harness this magical power, this magical medicine of the goldenrod plant? So there are different ways. Some of the most effective ways are my favorites. You can make a tea with goldenrod. I have a special place in my heart for herbal teas. I love mixing them. And you can also make a tincture with goldenrod. And tinctures are some of the most potent way and the easiest way to get our medicine from plants. You can also make an herbal oil for the skin that's to be used topically. So get out and find your plant allies. Get out and find the plants that you connect with, the plants that have something important to tell you, the plants that speak to you in some way or another. And as promised, we are going to have a tarot reading. I promise to, from now on, end each episode with a tarot reading. And I thought the subject of this reading, I'm just shuffling cards here. I thought the topic of this reading would be the next week for us, what's coming up. In case you haven't noticed already, we are in a time of serious transition. We've got some retrogrades going and things like that. Astrologically, we're in a major transition, and a lot of people are experiencing upheaval in their personal lives. Some people are experiencing intense upheavals that they're struggling to deal with. So I thought I would do a tarot reading for just to kind of check in and see what's coming up for us. So I'm going to keep it simple. I was going to do a Celtic cross, but I think, what am I feeling here? Okay, the message I'm getting is that I should do 5 cards. So that's what I'm doing. All right, so we have 5 cards laid out here. And let's see. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, good for us. The next week looks like it's actually going to be pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, which way do you want me to start? Okay, I'll start here. Okay, so the first card that we have is the Ace of Cups, and this card is telling me in this reading Oh, wow. There's going to be some relief for those who are struggling or concerned about what they have, wealth. And I almost didn't use the word wealth because I don't want people to think of, lots and lots of wealth or, being a billionaire or a millionaire or something like that. But wealth meaning whatever you have, whether it's a lot of money or a lot of things or just enough money or just enough things. But whatever you currently have, I'm being shown will be maintained. So it looks like we're not going to lose anything. And I have actually had some clients recently who have been very concerned about that. So I hope they're listening. If not, I'll send this to them. Anyway, so yeah, so that's a good thing there. Oh, and basically, yeah, it's all being maintained by a benevolent force. Okay, and the next card I'm getting is the World. Oh, wow. Okay. And this card always has such a magical meaning, but let me see what I'm getting from it for this reading. Okay. So this card is telling me, wow, we've got a lot of things going on. So as we already see, a lot is happening politically. And that's only going to, it's actually going to come into balance in the next week, but it's going to be very tricky because there are lots and lots of, what's the saying? There are lots of chefs in the kitchen. But the good thing is that all of these chefs are going to work together and bring about, a sort of harmony, or I don't want to say peace because, that's not always the case in the political world. But anyway, there will be a sense of balance between each of these heads, each of these powerful or influential heads of state and people who kind of hold a lot in the balance. So that's good to know. That's good to see because we've got a lot going on in that arena. The next card that I'm getting is the Three of Swords, and it is showing that there will be some heartache. So there will be some emotional things that we have to deal with. However, it's not a bad thing. When we have to let go of things, especially when we're not ready, it will cause us heartbreak. However, usually it ends up being a good thing. There's always, once we get to the other side, we realize that we were meant to lose that particular thing or that particular someone for a very good reason. And in this case, we are going to go through some heartache. However, we have to be strong and we have to understand that it's for a good reason. Next, I am seeing again, we're going back to politics. There's a lot happening in the world, politically in the next week. Which is, politics is, of course, a reflection of everything else. Everything is a reflection of everything else. So anyway, yeah, so I'm looking at this again. I have the Two of Cups, and it's showing me health, a balance of health. And it seems to be two particular nations that are coming together and creating a healthy agreement, which will be for the benefit of the entire world. For now, it doesn't mean that, for the rest of history or the rest of time, everything's going to change for the better. No, not for the rest of time, but at least it's going to bring about peace for, it looks like, an extended period of time. So that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. And as I said, this will affect other nations as well, not just these two nations that are coming together. And then the final card that we have in this reading is the Six of Pentacles. And this particular card is, again, this is amazing. Yeah, we've got some really good things happening politically. This also relates to politics, and it's showing me that through the agreement that I just mentioned, that there will come a time of those who have been suffering in a particular nation or particular nations will find some relief. They will be given some relief. Someone will come to their aid and help them financially and bring about a sense of peace for them that way, so that they aren't struggling with the basics of life. They're not struggling. They won't have to struggle anymore to find food and to find shelter and to find water and the basic things that we need in life. So there you have it, folks. That's our reading. That's our reading for this episode, and it actually is a hopeful reading. It feels good. I think it's funny that it mainly focused on politics. That's unusual for me in a reading. I usually I prefer not to narrow things down to any particular arena. I like to look at the bigger picture, but the cards were insistent. They wanted to talk about that. And so I don't tell the cards what to do. I just listen to what they have to say. Thank you so very much for joining me for this episode of Woman on Her Path. Please remember to respect yourself, and it will prompt others to respect you too. I just want to remind you again that starting October 7th, Woman on Her Path will be moving to Patreon, where there will be more opportunities to build a supportive community. I will also be offering more on Patreon, like classes and listener-requested content. Enjoy the beginning of autumn. Allow yourself to gently change with the seasons. We are moving toward a time of going within, a time of introspection. So start gathering what you need to make yourself nice and cozy. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to this show. I hope you found something useful. Like everything in life, we can take what we need and leave the rest. Please feel free to contact me with comments or questions at womanonherpath@gmail.com.